German Chancellor Friedrich Merz suggested that Ukraine may have to cede territory to Russia to pave the way for EU membership. Speaking to students at a high school in the western German town of Marsburg, Merz said that Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky would have to hold a referendum for the people to decide on both EU and concession matters. Russia presently occupies just over 20% of Ukrainian land, mainly in the eastern industrial Donbass region. Merz added that the decision can only be made by the Ukrainian people, stressing that it's crucial to hand power back to them.
Irgendwann wird es hoffentlich einen Friedensvertrag mit Russland geben. Dann wird möglicherweise ein Teil des Territoriums der Ukraine nicht mehr ukrainisch sein. Wenn das der eigenen Bevölkerung vermitteln will und dafür in der Bevölkerung eine Mehrheit bekommen will, und er muss eine Volksabstimmung darüber machen, dann muss er gleichzeitig der Bevölkerung sagen, aber ich habe den Weg nach Europa für euch geöffnet.
Kyiv's EU accession progress has been blocked by Hungary's nationalist and outgoing Prime Minister Viktor Orbán for the last 2 years. His recent landslide defeat to incoming Peter Magyar has raised hopes for the country to move on to the next steps of its membership bid. Merz warned against raising hopes for quick accession into the bloc, stressing that Ukraine's integration is contingent upon peace and reforms to the rule of law and fighting corruption. The German leader also added that Zelensky's proposed membership date of the 1st of January next year is not realistic, and went as far as to say that even the 1st of January 2028 may still not be enough time to realize the needed reforms. Kyiv currently holds the status of an official EU candidate country, which it has held since June 2022. A court has charged the suspect in the shooting incident at the White House Correspondents' Dinner with the attempted assassination of President Donald Trump on Monday. The 31-year-old Cole Allen did not enter a plea at the hearing and faces a sentence of up to life in prison if convicted of trying to kill the president. Authorities revealed earlier that Allen had written a manifesto prior to his attack, where he detailed his hatred for the Trump administration.
The so-called manifesto is a stunning thing to read. I am no longer willing to permit a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat my hands with his crimes. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I was waiting for you to read that because I knew you would, because you're horrible people, horrible people. Yeah, he did write that. I'm not a rapist. I didn't rape anybody.
Do you think he was referring to you?
Excuse me. I'm not a pedophile. You read that crap from some sick person.
The White House blamed Democrats for fueling hatred against Trump, resulting in political violence.
This political violence stems from a systemic demonization of him and his supporters by commentators, yes, by elected members of the Democrat Party, and even some in the media. Saturday was supposed to be a joyful evening, celebrating free speech and the First Amendment with all of you, members of the press. Instead, the night was hijacked by a crazed anti-Trump individual who traveled across the country to assassinate the president and as many administration officials as possible.
Authorities say the suspect was tackled before inflicting any serious harm on the attendants. Only one person, an officer wearing a bulletproof vest, was shot and not badly injured. Allen is believed to have traveled from California to Chicago and then to Washington and checked himself as a guest at the Hilton Hotel, where the gala dinner was being held. Authorities say in several messages he referred to himself as, quote, the friendly federal assassin, and made multiple references to Trump without naming him.
The truce is not holding between Israel and Hezbollah. That is the assessment made by the Lebanese Minister for Displaced Persons, Kamel Sehadi, on Euronews program Europe Today on Monday. Israeli strikes killed 14 people on Sunday, making it the deadliest day since the ceasefire between Hezbollah and Israel began.
Let's not forget that the ceasefire was imposed on both Israel and Hezbollah last week. Neither side wanted the ceasefire, and they both found a way to go back to the modus operandi of the pre-ceasefire announcement.
For Sehadi, the attempt by Israel to establish a so-called yellow line in southern Lebanon, similar to the one in Gaza, is outrageous. We do not recognize a yellow line, nor a red line, nor a blue line. We have a border and that needs to be demarcated, said the Lebanese minister. Sehaidi pointed out also that the Lebanese government had already committed to disarming Hezbollah and that it wanted to ensure that no hostilities took place on the border between Lebanon and Israel in order to get a border that is safe and secure.
Hundreds of vessels remain immobilized in the Gulf, leaving tens of thousands of seafarers unable to cross the Strait of Hormuz as the maritime blockade enters a critical phase. Between 13 and 19 April, roughly 80 vessels managed to transit the waterway, a staggering drop from the average of 130 transits per day recorded before the war. The United Nations reports that dozens of ships have come under fire since the conflict began, with at least 10 mariners killed in the line of duty. Those currently anchored near Iranian ports describe a tense atmosphere of isolation and constant threat.
Kami di sini sudah 1 bulan. Begitu kemarin kita di sini sempat ada serangan drone. Pertama waktu saya baru tiba di sini tanggal 3 di pelabuhan, begitu sandar ada serangan drone. Cuman tidak tahu drone dari mana, cuman saya dapat infonya dari Iran. Itu dia meledak di dekat tangki full oil dekat kapal kita.
Although US President Donald Trump has extended the ceasefire indefinitely, Washington maintains a strict blockade on Iranian ports. In retaliation, Tehran has fired upon several vessels and seized 2 others, further complicating any hopes for a safe corridor.
Before ceasefire, there were so many issues raised by the seafarers that there was shortage of the food, and some ships started rationing of the water nearly 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. The major failure was the seafarers was not able to communicate with their family.
The International Maritime Organization is now calling for an urgent humanitarian corridor to evacuate trapped crews. However, Tehran continues to demand tolls for passage, insisting the strait is only open to vessels it deems non-hostile.
Russian forces launched a massive overnight attack on residential neighborhoods and civilian infrastructure in Ukraine's southern port city of Odessa, regional authorities said on Monday. The heaviest damage was reported in the city's Primorsky district, where residential buildings, a hotel, and sites in the city's center were hit. Authorities added that 11 people were injured, including 2 children. Ukraine's Air Force said Russia launched 94 drones overnight across 15 locations, 74 of which were intercepted. At least 4 people were reported killed across the country over the past day. The attack comes a day after Russia launched another barrage of strikes across Ukraine on the 40th anniversary of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, killing at least 17 people. On Sunday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky warned that Russian attacks risk repeating history, a concern echoed by the International Atomic Energy Agency. French prison guards blockaded facilities across the country on Monday in protest of chronic overcrowding and staff shortages, in a strike called by the UFAP-UNSA union representing prison and Ministry of Justice workers. The union is demanding emergency measures to fill an estimated 5,000 vacant guard posts.
Il y a une violence latente au quotidien dans nos prisons. Il faut savoir que, par exemple, il y a plus de 1000 détenus dans la région qui dorment sur des matelas. Ça veut dire qu'il y a une nervosité, une tension, des conditions de vie en détention qui sont indignes et honteuses, et donc une violence qui ne demande qu'à s'exprimer.
As of April 1st, French prisons held nearly 25,000 more inmates than the system's capacity, an occupancy rate of almost 140%. The Council of Europe condemned French prison conditions in January, warning that conditions in French jails had become degrading. The Ministry of Justice plans to open 3,000 additional places, half of them by 2027, in modular prisons for prisoners on short sentences or approaching release. A 2018 program to build 15,000 new places has yielded fewer than a third of that target.
The number of conscientious objector applications is rising in Germany as debate over military service and security keeps intensifying. Germany recorded above 2,500 conscientious objector applications in the first quarter of 2026. It is more than two-thirds of the total registered across the whole of 2025, according to authorities. New military service legislation has entered into force at the beginning of the year. The reform requires young men born in 2008 or later to register for potential conscription, with the Bundestag able to activate compulsory service if voluntary recruitment falls short. Defense Minister Boris Pistorius has framed the reform as a response to a deteriorating security environment. The debate on whether men of fighting age should be required to seek authorization before traveling abroad for extended periods has fueled public unease. Meanwhile, almost 800 people who had previously declared conscientious objector status changed their mind last year.
The government of Mali is in crisis after the killing of Defense Minister General Sadio Camara on Saturday. The junta-run country was struck by one of the biggest coordinated attacks on its army in the capital, Bamako, and several other cities and towns. General Camara died after a car bomb driven by a suicide bomber targeted his residence. Separatist rebels also seized towns and military bases, which is confirmed by the Malian government. The head of the military junta, General Assimi Goita, was reportedly moved to a safe location after his home was targeted. Following military coups, the juntas in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso turned from Western to Russian allies, looking to Moscow for help in combating Islamic militants. But the security situation has worsened with the record number of attacks reported since 2025. Russian mercenaries hired by Mali's military agreed to withdraw from Kidal after 2 days of clashes, the separatist Azawad Liberation Front group said. For years, the FLA has fought to establish an independent homeland in northern Mali, where it already effectively controls a vast territory.